Hi, I hope you're having a great day. In this video, I'll be focusing on the user interface and how to create a mock-up of your plugin. To be honest, the first time I designed a plugin for WordPress, I had absolutely zero knowledge of programming and no experience whatsoever in designing software. I didn't even understand what the user interface was, or how to use the native WordPress interface in my design. So let's get started at the beginning, with the basics. The user interface is what a person sees and interacts with when they are using your software, or in this case, the WordPress plugin. The UI is everything about the way the menus and even the pages are laid out. It includes really simple things like the type, size, and even the color of the font. I'm going to use a page ruler, which is a Google Chrome plugin, to show you exactly what I mean. Let's start off with the spacing between the lines. The gap between every line is and always will be 34 pixels. Use any less than this and the text will look cramped. Increase the gap and it will look like there's too much space. It's the same with the length of the input fields. I've measured it a bit shorter than the WordPress standard, but round it up and you know that the length of an input field should be 250 pixels. The size is standard. It's the same as the height. It should always be 28 pixels. Less and it just won't look right. More and it will look odd. You'll see exactly what I mean later on. I'm sure it's now becoming clear in your mind exactly how the WordPress UI works. Just to be clear, it's not just WordPress that has a standard UI. Whether it's Android or Apple, all operating systems and platforms will have a native interface that you, as a designer, should be using. If you start adding new elements into your design that aren't present within the interface, there's a real possibility that any updates to the software will result in bugs. Once you understand how the user interface works, you can move on to creating a mock-up of your plugin. There are a couple of different ways that you can actually do this. The first, and the best option, is using Photoshop. With Photoshop, you can create an exact mock-up of your design. This means a pixel-perfect representation that you can send to your programmer. Unfortunately, I can't actually use Photoshop, and so I create wireframe mock-ups of my designs. There's a lot of different software available that lets you create wireframe mockups. At the moment, I use something called Balsamiq. It's a premium piece of software with both an online and offline version. Quick tip, if you choose to use the online version, you can actually get a month free trial. Then, they'll actually give you another 30 days to think about making a purchase after your first month runs out. Balsamiq is actually very simple to use. You work from a blank canvas and the software comes with an inbuilt library. The graphics are all pretty standard. There are buttons, drop-down menus, things like that. The library is pretty good. The good thing about genetic graphics is that you can actually use them for anything. The bad thing, of course, is that they are not all going to be suitable for things like WordPress. This can be a real problem as it leaves a lot of room to interpret your design. More about that later. Okay, let me give you an example of how I use Balsamiq to design a plugin. When you're designing, remember what I talked about before. Make sure that every part of your design uses the same interface as the WordPress loading screen. For example, if you're creating an input field, make sure that the spacing between the text and the input field is exactly the same across the whole of your mockup. Now I made this very quickly, so let me show you the results of a mockup I created for WordPress. As you can see, by using the WordPress UI, the result looks great. The font is correct, everything is aligned, the input fields are the right size, and they are all placed in the right spot. Unfortunately, it's not always like this. Let me show you what happens when you don't use the WordPress UI. A lot of the things about the design on this page are different from the standard interface. So even though it has the same functionality that I requested, the result just doesn't look so good. Okay, it's about time I wrap this up. I hope you learned a lot from this video, not only about the importance of using the native WordPress UI, but also about how to design a plugin. Thanks for watching.